Hello there, and welcome to the Method Matters podcast. I'm your host, Greg Kouwiloyan, director and co-founder for Method Recruitment. If you're new to the show, the whole premise of this particular show is to interview thought leaders across Australia that are doing things a little bit differently, getting insights into their past, present, and what their future holds. Today we've got a very special guest. Not only do I call him a friend, but he is also the executive leader within a professional services firm, board director and volunteer for an international children's charity, Red Lollipop, and a mad Crystal Palace fan. For all of his woes, please welcome Gregory Hall.
Thank you, Greg. Good to be here.
Oh, mate, I'm very, very happy that you are here. So, how I say, my friend, are you doing well?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Very, very good, thank you.
Good,
very,
good to see you.
Absolutely, mate. I know you and I.
Liking this setup.
You're liking this setup? I'm glad to hear it. The person behind the camera that you can't see is very lovely. Iris, it's very much helped make this, because if it was down to me, it would be in a shed somewhere. So, but listen, it's very, very good to have you here, mate. And obviously, we've got a lot of history from days gone by within the recruitment industry. But I'm very glad that you said yes to come and join us on the show and to share your insights with our community. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Wonderful. So let's delve a little bit deeper into your past.
Sure.
All right. So in terms of the industry that you're currently in, just walk us through your journey. How did you arrive here?
So how did I get into recruitment? I had a background. I grew up in London, and I was working part-time in television while I was studying at university. So I worked for the BBC for some years, and then post-university as well. And I was sort of behind the camera doing the interviewing part. So off to the side of the camera, constantly interviewing people all day on those sort of reality TV type shows, which was great fun. But I think I just knew that it wasn't for me long term. I think maybe the hours, or I don't know. There was something there that just didn't quite click for me. It's like, that's going to be my career for the rest of my life. And I had a friend who had moved from the industry into recruitment. He said, why don't you come and check out what we do? It's quite similar in the fact that you're constantly meeting people every day, interviewing people, sold me the dream, as it were. You can make loads of money, you can work normal hours.
There's that carrot, right?
We've all been there. I think if you've worked in talent acquisition or recruitment, you probably had that conversation with someone at some point. So I went along, and I don't really like what I saw. And I think he shot himself in the foot at the time, because he said, just interview with a few other companies, because it will show that you're really interested in doing this. So I did. I joined somebody else. But
as you do.
Yeah, that's right. So I worked for 2 years in London for a financial services type recruitment company. And then I moved to Australia, as many of us Brits have done over the years. I think at that time, there was an influx of us coming across. It's easy to get a visa. There was all of these things like LAFA, living away from home allowances. There was the sun and the sell of coming to this wonderful country, and the doom and gloom of the recession that was going on at the time, the GFC. So I moved across, and I think that's where we met. It's a recruitment company back then in 2012. And my journey in recruitment kind of expanded over the past 13 years, from working as an accounting recruiter to working within a variety of management consulting, recruitment sectors, to moving up to that kind of exec search level, I guess, which has been quite interesting. And then I was going through, I think, a similar process to many people during lockdown, where I was thinking about what's next. I was at home alone. I wasn't with my partner at the time. So you're stuck with your own thoughts, thinking, what am I doing with my life? Where is this going? What's next? I think I need a change. And I decided that I was going to move from the external world of recruitment into the internal world of recruitment, to internal talent acquisition. So I made that leap 2.5 years ago, and haven't looked back since. And I've learned lots over the past 2.5+ years, and my roles changed dramatically, and it's been an interesting journey. So I've gone from, that BBC broadcasting background to recruitment in London to internal recruitment within Australia.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And I remember when I came over, it was almost like for like the recruitment industry being coming from that sort of very highly transactional culture, pretty much like it was in the UK, to over here. Like for like in the sense where obviously the relation component was far more prevalent over here as opposed to it was like in the UK. Yeah. But same outcomes you're trying to drive. Obviously, like you said, there was that carrot that was being dangled. The harder you work, the more you earn. So there was obviously more to it. Are there any sort of, I suppose, fundamentals that you found that were quite challenging along the way, whether it was the transition potentially from that sort of external world into the more internal sort of consulting world? Was there anything that you kind of felt along the way that was a bit of a milestone when it came to a challenge?
I think there's been several challenges along the way. The big one for me in the early stages of the career was coming to Australia, not having any knowledge about business here whatsoever. Yeah. And not knowing who's who in the zoo, where to start, and being quite intimidated by that. Yeah. In particular, I think by people that were around me who were very well established and, not even knowing what the names of the suburbs were around here, let alone, where companies are situated, what they're called. So that was obviously a bit of a challenge to start off with. And then just, building your brand. I think everyone in recruitment goes through that, trying to build your name and your brand, but you've just got to back yourself and really just keep at it and, keep persisting and keep knocking on the door. And, you've got those 7 points of contact people talk about, just keep at it and building relationships. Yeah. And I guess moving into the internal side, just that fear of the unknown. In London, when I started off in recruitment, there was always this notion that if you go internal, you're a failed recruiter. And I'm sure you've probably heard that.
Yeah, it has negative connotations.
So negative. And I don't know why. I just, when I was 21 years old, 22, whenever it was, just hearing this stuff and thinking, that's the reality of going internal. Couldn't be further from the truth at all. I think moving internally has been one of the most challenging things that I've done because it's a completely different type of role and it's super enjoyable at the same time and it's just surrounded by people who are some of the best recruiters that I've ever worked with and most talented internal people and inclusion professionals. So it's been difficult. I mean, that's been a challenge, just learning that whole new space, juggling multiple things at once. It's been quite different. And really just, almost starting from scratch again, re-establishing yourself because you're very comfortable after 13 plus years in external recruitment. You've got your method, how you do things, you've got your contacts, the people you can call that give you that work every time. And then all of a sudden you just start from scratch. You don't know how processes are run, how contracts are made, in systems to onboarding side, and it's a whole different culture and a different way of working. So it's like starting again, but exciting at the same time. It's almost like just having a clean slate, getting this restart. But the opportunities that you can get when you do change, and I think take that leap is wonderful. And you've got organisations that will offer career development and the ability to move into different roles over the years. So it's been great.
Yeah, good. And learn from different stakeholders as well.
Absolutely.
So, the exposure you could get with an internal role as opposed to an external role, obviously the outcomes might be different, but you're still going to be learning a huge amount from a variety of different people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've already mentioned I've learned. So I mentioned to you before, I've learned more in the past 2.5 years than I probably did in that last 5 years in the tail end of agency recruitment. But that's obviously just my personal experience, just because I did something new.
Yeah.
That was all. And that was the real reason for wanting to go internal, was to learn something new. And I saw all my peers do it and rave about it and have these wonderful flourishing careers.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want something that I want to learn about, the internal HR processes. I want the opportunity to then go on and do something like a consulting role, or just have this open door of opportunity that's there, and get something a bit different on the CV.
Yeah, and a bit fresh as well, right? Something a little bit, that's something to complement your current background, because you've also got that level of exposure that wasn't just purely recruitment. Obviously, working in the UK for the BBC, doing something completely different, but still involved with working with a variety of different people. Yeah, it can only sort of improve. And I think you make a very valid point around the condiment during lockdown. Like, for a lot of people, it's just you think about, okay, let's reflect. Am I happy with what's been happening? How can I improve my current situation? How long is this going to last? And especially if you're living on your own, you're kind of, I won't use the word trapped with your own thoughts, but kind of kept for your own thoughts. It's difficult. It's a difficult time.
Yeah.
And some people prevail, and some people kind of get caught up with those thoughts sometimes, and it's hard to clamber out.
Yeah, I feel bad going on about this wonderful transition that I've had, going from external agency into internal recruitment, when I'm very conscious that I'm sat in an external agency office at the moment.
Hey, so listen, everyone has a different journey, right? Everyone has a different journey, and whether it's internal or external, I mean, some people just want the different challenge, like you said, mate. Just a fresh idea, a new set of values, a new direction. There's no right or wrong.
Absolutely.
There's definitely no right or wrong. If you were to talk about milestones, we're talking more about the present you as we sort of entered into this realm. If you're talking about milestones that you're all happy, content, like things that you've achieved, and you've spoken a lot about your adaptiveness to always work, to learn new things and to grow into different roles. Are there a few points when during your career, whether it's more recent or from days gone by, where it's kind of like, you know what, I'm super happy and impressed that I've done that, like something that you it's almost unforgettable in that sense?
Yes. And it's difficult to pinpoint any one particular thing. Okay. I think maybe a combination of things which sort of intertwine to complement each other. It sounds a bit bizarre, but I think probably the point where I looked and thought to myself, I've actually achieved something, was quite recently, because we're coming up to our 10-year anniversary this month of the charity that I'm involved with.
Yeah.
And that's probably what I'm most proud of in my professional career, is the work that I've done.
I'm really keen to hear more about this, though.
I'm more than happy to tell you more. So I think just reflecting on the work that we've done with that charity has been the one time that I've looked back and gone, we've done good. I think when it comes to the day-to-day professional side of things, I've been certainly proud when I've got new roles and when I've had a good month and a good quarter. And, the comms checks have come in, or you make it on the big village trip, you get that promotion. But I think I always look at it probably not in the most positive sense, because I do, like a lot of other people, have this imposter syndrome a lot of the time. Yes, but you could have been doing a bit more. You could have been doing that. You could have been doing that. So I do find it quite difficult sometimes to look back and be like, smash this out the park. It's somewhat bad.
Not at all. I think that imposter syndrome is more common than you think. I mean, I always had the opportunity to meet someone, a lady called Gabby Thompson, who I interviewed, who also held the event here for us for a not-for-profit team. She's an inspirational human. She's one of the most decorated individuals I've ever met with. And she sort of talks about it now, like with confidence, even though she's probably one of the most influential people in her space. And she would talk about imposter syndrome. I was like, she has the veneer and the confidence. That would surprise anyone, to be completely honest. But I think there's a lot of people that, I won't say suffer, it's probably a wrong term to use, but that recognise that they maybe have that level of that level of imposter syndrome. I'd say. Yeah.
And lockdown didn't help that.
Yeah, it didn't, mate. And how do you combat that as well? It's like, do you get wine delivered to the door because you can't go and purchase it? You're just eating a handful of chocolate. I was like, every 5 minutes, it's just like, let's just go, try to make yourself feel better all the time.
That's it. Doing bake-offs at home. But actually, I'm the only person that's around eating this massive cake.
Exactly. You can't even take it to the neighbours,
No.
I know, mate, I know. But I'm keen to learn a bit more about Radio Lollipop, and
Sure.
I want to dig a little bit deeper, because I think what you've done there over the years is not just been obviously influential upon your career, but there's been various touch points. Can you walk us through, I suppose, the timeline, the roles that you've had there, the things that you're proud of, a bit more about the values and maybe how that aligns to you as an individual?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I had a background in broadcasting.
Yeah.
And I had always had this interest in performing arts, broadcasting, that side of the world, the arts, as it were. And I was making that transition from BBC into the wonderful world of recruitment, and I met somebody who was volunteering at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London at the time.
Okay.
And they said, why don't you come down and check out this radio service that we have at the kids' hospital here? It's fantastic, and come and check it out and see what we do. Got a visitor? Oh, no, okay. Someone's on the door.
It's a fly.
That's it. That's it. They must have been drawn to this part.
Yeah, exactly.
Radio volunteer.
Queue outside the door.
Come running. So I was having this conversation. Yeah. They mentioned they volunteered at this charitable organisation, Radio Lollipop. Now, Radio Lollipop is it's an organisation I hadn't heard of at the time, but I knew that hospital radio for those outside of the UK, I don't know, but hospital radio is massive in the UK. It's across most hospitals. There is some form of radio station internally for people to tune into, which is a bit different here in Australia, but it's a big thing in the UK. And so I knew about hospital radio, so I thought, that'll be fun. Let's go down and check it out. And I had this impression that it would just be a small room in a broom cupboard somewhere in the hospital playing some CDs. Yeah. I was quite wrong. Yeah. And I went down and I saw that it was actually a service that provided this care, comfort, play and entertainment to children and their families who are in hospital. Yeah. And the radio part of it was their biggest tool in the play box, but it wasn't really about that. It was about providing that care and comfort side of things. Yeah. So actually seeing volunteers going out to the wards and making connections with the kids and just cheering their day up a little bit by doing some arts and crafts, playing some games, generally just bringing that cheer to the room. That's the bit that I kind of fell in love with. Yeah. So I did a very short stint with them in London. Yeah. A handful of months really before moving across to Australia. And I felt that I'd just be able to pick this up in Australia because there was an Australian presence that was going on for a couple of decades at the time. But when I got here to Melbourne, I quickly found out that there wasn't a Radio Lollipop in Victoria. Yeah. Very big in WA, very well established there and up in Queensland, but nothing here. So I felt a bit guilty that I kind of got involved in this organisation and suddenly just vanished. Yeah. So I did some various fundraising at the time in that first year, but there wasn't a Radio Lollipop here. I think you sponsored me for something back in the day. Yeah. So I did a few bits and pieces, like I say, fun runs. I did the Sydney Marathon. It was the worst day of my life.
Because it was a marathon.
Yeah. I was a lot slimmer at the time. Older and wider, probably older and wider. Yeah, actually. I was doing these various fundraising bits for the charity, and then I saw that they were looking to get that set up in Victoria. So there's an ABC radio presenter, Lisa Leon, somebody listeners might listen to. She was helping get it set up. So I got in contact with the team and said, hey, I've got experience, a small amount of experience with the charity in London. We'd love to help get it set up. So I started off as their local chairperson for the local management team.
Yeah.
That really entailed just getting recruitment underway, getting our presence out in the wards. And we didn't have a radio studio. We had nothing. We had a small closet, a disused nurses station it was. And we just did arts and crafts and games and we played music. And that just evolved over time. And that was at the old Monash Children's Hospital before it was built. The new Monash Children's Hospital was built. And the team just grew from there, basically. And we grew and started adding more nights until we're up to a team that was running every week. And then we were invited to be part of this new hospital build. And we built a radio studio, similar size to this room, which is in the foyer of the new Monash Children's Hospital. So first thing the kids see when they go into the hospital. And I guess that's important because, I've been in hospitals as an adult and I was petrified. So imagine what it's like if you go in as a 5-year-old.
Absolutely.
Whereas when you have these fun, awesome activities like Radio Lollipop and like some of the other big organisations, I'm not sure if we're allowed to mention their names, but they do wonderful things in the hospital. We all complement each other. So when you walk in and you go into this scary environment, you don't see that, dull, old 70s carpet, very sterile environment. You see, open, bright spaces, colourful images, music playing, volunteers ready to do some face painting, and this joy and this fun. And all of a sudden, the hospital isn't as scary anymore. So that's been really important part of my life and that journey. And I've held some various roles over the years before I was asked to step onto the board for Australia, and up till today. So I still try and do some of the on the ground stuff, but I think most of my time is spent doing the board bits and pieces, fundraising, and just making sure the operation on the ground has that backing and that support. That we do have people that are out there to go and see the kids, and making certain that they have that little bit of relief each day and can heal through the power of play.
Perfect. And to be fair, how daunting is it as an adult walking into a hospital, let alone as a kid, knowing or not knowing what to expect?
You've got mum and dad making every decision for you, so you can't say no. You're 7 years old to the doctors and nurses coming in and sending you off to have an MRI scan. Having these injections, you don't know what's going on. It's not like you and I as an adults go, not for me. That. It's scary. I can't imagine as a child. So I wasn't not through the job, but I was an adult, as I mentioned. So if I was petrified then, it's got to be pretty tough as a kid.
That's amazing. And one of the questions I was going to ask was around, I suppose, how your role differed from obviously inception back in the day, 10, 11 years ago, starting Red Lollipop to being on the board now. You said you're a bit more involved in the more strategic side of things. Can you give us a bit of insight into, I suppose, what that looks like and how different compared to back in the day?
So back in the day, I was just going in nightly, doing the arts and crafts, being quite badly, terrible magic tricks, playing Uno.
Is it time for this now? Or? Another show. All right, okay, another time.
No, it's radio. So I know you won't be on YouTube. So no one can see.
It's fine.
Make it up. You just pretend that you'd be wow. But we'll get caught out on YouTube. So I was going in, weekly, and then that sort of turned into bi-weekly, and then helping, just get the teams up and running. But it was very much an on the ground, ward visiting volunteer, going around doing these play activities, to then getting the radio built and being on the radio. So it's very different to this sort of conversation because we have a different theme each night. So one night might be like pirates, and next day it's under the sea, and then you're dancing with Disney princesses. You know what that's like. You've got kids.
Of course, mate. That's a regular occurrence in my household. Dressing up like a pirate, effectively, and then being told to not be a pirate. It's time to be a prince. It's like, okay, cool. Now you're a princess. Like, man, I'm happy to dress up. I really don't mind.
Do you ever have that moment where you get caught wearing some of the stuff and you're on a Zoom call, you've got the director hat on, and you're like, oh no, I've still got the Elsa hat on.
More often than not, mate. More often than not. That's why I try to steer away from Zoom and Teams now. It's just like, please, let's just have these face-to-faces.
Sorry, I diverted.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, you were asking about the difference from going from being the listing volunteer to being on the board. And yes, look, I guess the board isn't as fun. It's a different type of fun. It's serious fun. We just obviously do the running of the organisation and making sure that the engine room at the back there is kind of running so that we can support our local management teams and make sure that they are up and running and we're solvent.
It's a good start. That's brilliant, mate. Thank you for sharing, mate.
No, thank you for asking.
No, it was a big part of this conversation was to better understand about your role at Red Lollipop and how that's evolved. So I do really appreciate it.
And that's helped in my own career outside of the charitable organisation because I've learned from some really interesting, experienced board directors who've helped me understand everything from like how a P&L works properly, which I think I claimed to really understand when I first started out, but I didn't really. So there's things like that, risk register works, things like that. So that's been really great for my own personal development and growth. And I'd certainly recommend to anyone to get involved in an organisation and put your hand up for whether it be, charitable organisation, the local football club, or the local dance society, to get involved because you will learn from people about how organisations run, how finances are run, and that engine room at the back, and you'll learn about business that way.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes I think people can claim to be a bit poor when it comes to time, and there's obviously conflicting priorities. But if these opportunities will be out there for the right people, you just got to be asking the right questions and be amongst it.
Yeah, there's plenty of organisations that are out there which are flexible on time commitments. Some, we ask quite a lot from people, but we're very open and make sure that people understand what they're signing up to start off with. But even if it's something virtually, you can do encourage people to have a hobby. At least,
Absolutely. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate you sharing it. I wanted to dig a little bit deep into your future self.
Sure.
In terms of, I suppose, your industry insights around internal recruitment specifically, are there any particular tools or patterns around innovation that you're kind of seeing, that you're exploring or utilising within the industry as such?
Yeah, I think and this is not going to be groundbreaking stuff.
Please, go ahead.
But the use of AI tools, in particular, at the moment, is very useful. And people need to get on that and stay one step ahead of the game. And I'm not recommending that every organisation just goes out and uses a random, chat GPT, but, work with organisations to try and build your own. How does that integrate into your CRM systems? Do you have the right systems? I think, it's really vital that you have the right systems in place to take care of things like privacy at the moment. This year's been a huge year for, privacy breaches, and our data has just leaked everywhere, and with, new government legislations about that, and consequences for organisations that are not ready, for data breaches. People need to be on the front foot for that, whether you're in an external agency or an internal organisation. But I'm still trying to get my head around some of this ChatGPT stuff. I mean, I was trying to write a job spec this week for something, and I kept thinking, when am I going to have time to do that? And one of my colleagues said he used our internal AI to try and get you just started. It's not perfect, but saved me a good 20 minutes
Yeah.
to start off with. It took me 30 seconds just to decide what I wanted in there. Bosh.
Yeah.
So it's a bit worrying and scary at the same time, because I think to myself, am I going to be out of a job in a few years?
Well, I was going to ask you this because there's two schools of thought at the moment.
Yeah.
Right? There's a clear divide between let's embrace what lies ahead, or is it going to be the end of human interaction in a number of roles? And an entire conversation for another time could be around what the future roles look like.
Yeah.
If you fast forward, I won't say 20 years, but 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And then obviously reverse engineer that this education system set up to support that growth for kids in those new roles. Like this, it is a minefield, right? An absolute minefield. But I'd love to know what sort of side do you sway? Is there let's embrace and get on board and digest it and use it, for the greater good? Or is it like, oh God, what happens if we don't?
Yeah, I think you have to get on board because it's going that way.
Yeah.
Like the whole world is going that way.
Yeah.
This technology, it's ever evolving. It's happening with you, like it or not. So you're better off getting on board now and learning and understanding the best use of these tools than hoping that it goes away.
Yeah.
I don't think in our world of talent acquisition recruitment, you'll ever be able to replicate that human interaction when you get in a room with somebody. And I think that's proven by virtual interviews that we've had over the past few years, virtual meetings with your own team, trying to get people back into the office, but it's difficult to do so. How different is it when you go on a client meeting and you actually get them face to face in a room, or you're having an interview with someone you want to come and join your company, or you're interviewing for that company? It's so much better if you're in the room with the person, because you can just understand body language better.
Yeah.
You have that eye contact. There's no distractions in the background.
Yeah.
You look somebody in the face and it's supposed to, somewhere else on the screen.
Yeah,
There's
true.
those different elements to it.
Yeah.
I do think that the use of AI tools and technology will improve. So in our space, hunting for candidates be like bosh. Done. Because right now, what do you do if you're in some sort of search project? You go on LinkedIn, post an advert, see what comes in. You spend hours making thousands of profiles to try and match like a couple of words that you've popped in and some tools. But I can imagine that eventually, without even being able to have to write your own CV, there'll be enough information about us out there that you type it into an AI tool and it'll go, right, here's your top 5.
Yeah.
Off you go. But then that's great. That's when you can actually do the thing which that's recruiters do best, which is call people, talk to people, and have those face-to-face meetings.
Yeah.
More time for that.
More time.
The positives.
Yeah, I'm in the same I suppose category as you. It's like embrace it, do your best to understand it.
Yeah.
If you never understand the full entirety, but how can you make it benefit you and your work in there?
Yeah.
That's the way I say that there's merit. And if I also rewind when sort of LinkedIn came into play, it was just like, right, well, how can we utilize it? How can we improve it? How can we use it for the greater good of search? So it's a similar ethos, sentiment for me personally around how to use it usefully.
Yeah. Do you use ChatGPT?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I think it's wonderful. Yeah, on a number of levels. I think my knowledge of it needs to improve, and the utilization of it, and I think obviously safety around it needs to be a bit more public.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah, I agree.
I think a lot more teaching and learning around that. It doesn't matter, how you're using it or what you're using it. I think the safety features need to be, especially when you start looking at the kids who are in school, and obviously when they're if they're going to be studying for exams. Obviously, I want it to be safer. One eye on the future of such.
Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Thank you. The flip side, combating mental health. We've touched on this a little bit in terms of, I suppose, your journey through lockdowns, and everyone's individual journey was maniacally different. Whether you're cooped up with your family doing the homeschool like I was, and it was brain melting at the best of times whilst you were trying to be effective at work, versus the individuals who were just cooped up at home with their own thoughts and trying to obviously tackle it themselves. But is there anything that you've implemented yourself, or is there anything that you practice today that's helped sort of combat those difficult times?
I think for me, it was setting myself some goals and sticking to them.
Yeah.
So this is nothing new.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer.
But this is about you.
If you find the person who does have the answer to this, please let me know.
Give me a call. Yeah.
But I had a real bad time in 2020, as most people did. So mine wasn't any worse than anybody else's. Everyone had their own battles. I was at home alone and in this dark apartment, and there was a building going up next to me. So I'd wake up every morning to the drilling, and it was literally arms far away. So I was, I didn't have to go through the shared space. So I had my own space. That was good. So there were some positives, but not being able to get outside and being away from home and coming from the UK, always having that knowledge that if anything happens, you're just 24 hours away.
That's right.
Flight. This sudden realization of, wow, it might be months until I have that possibility, which then turned into years without seeing your family. So that was pretty tough. So I had just a tough time mentally, I think, in 2020, going through the lockdown, as everybody did. And it came to 2021, and I thought to myself, right, I need to set some certain goals for this year. I need to change my routine, get a bit healthier.
You weren't alone with that, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. When I was talking about the wine being delivered to the door and the handwritten chocolate, that was my journey during lockdown.
Yeah.
It's painful. Yeah.
That's it. And everyone was going through that, I guess, physical and mental health battle, I think. And great if you didn't, people who managed to get through it without that. But I was in the camp that I guess struggled a bit. So I had a year of it. I'd completed Netflix.
Nothing else to watch.
Yeah, so thanks Netflix not bringing anything new out at the end of 2020 because, that made me think, what else can I do? So I just started going for a morning walk every day. So there was little things. It wasn't all of a sudden I'm going to set this task that I'm going to climb Everest or something. It was just get outside, go for a walk every morning, just get yourself into work mode. I reassessed my goals, and that's when I decided where I want to be in 5 years. And the answer was I want to be doing something different. I did want to go internally, learn new things. So I set that as a target to try and find a new role, which was a shame because actually things were going quite well at the time. So, managed to, keep my job, and that was actually going fine. Yeah. So it wasn't an issue with the company or the job I was doing, but it was just more about what I wanted for the future. Yeah. Really. So decided I was going to be part of the Great Resignation. And
it was a thing.
Yeah. And this is so cheesy.
Go on.
But I was single at the time. So it's like, right, I've got to get a girlfriend.
That's it. Goal number one, goal number two. How high on the priority list was it?
Yeah, I know. I've kept it so professional today.
Yeah.
It's internal stuff and stuff.
That's it. It's personal and professional.
Just needed a girlfriend.
Yeah. Obviously, funnel during that time, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah. So so I just made sure I just set a few goals and made sure I was like, right, I need to get this by the end of the year. So I started on morning walks and sorted out the professional side and moved internally, and that was fantastic. Even though I then started this new role in lockdown in 2021, I still tick that box. And I met my partner late 2021, and now living together, and everything's fantastic. And we just recently got back from meeting my family over in the UK, and it was good. So I think simple things that works for me. Yeah, obviously everyone's different. Yeah, but battling mental health is great. Everyone's talking about it at the moment, and there's plenty of organisations that are out there. There's certainly there's one called the Male Hug, which I highly recommend supporting at the moment. But there's plenty that are out there. Are You Okay? I don't know whether you can mention these charities on your pod, but certainly, I've got a friend of mine that is one of the directors at the Male Hug. I think they do fantastic things, but it's just, making sure you're having conversations and checking in on people as well, and making sure you're trying to look after yourself as well. But everyone battles with wouldn't say, well, I guess people do battle with their demon, their own personal demons about self-doubt and where's my career going? What am I going to do next? And there was no time like COVID when we were all just there, sat with our own thoughts, where, that's pretty much what I thought about at the time. What am I doing? What am I doing in my life? I can't believe I'm watching this again. I'm eating this cake all to myself.
It was a little thing that made it smile. I think you made a really good point. Now, especially in 2023, there's a lot more noise around mental health and having access to certain tools and individuals, whether it is, Are You Okay? Or the Shack Up project that we support as well. I think it's important that people have access, because it's not at one point in time that you might be feeling like you're doubting yourself or whatever. People need to dip in and dip out whenever they need it.
The radio is really good as well. And I tell you why the radio is really good. Most people actually listen to the radio. I'll ask you this question.
Go.
Sorry, I know you're into me.
That point.
So where do you think most people listen to the radio?
When? During the day?
Where?
Where? In their car?
Most people say in their car. Actually, most people listen to the radio in their homes.
Okay.
And the reason why most people listen to the radio in their homes, it's often the people that stay at home during the day, or elderly population, for example. And when you listen to the radio, you often feel like you have that one-on-one connection with the presenter, and it's like they're talking to you directly, particularly if it's just a solo presenter. So there is that sense of kind of community, if you listen to community radio or to national radio, and they're just talking about a particular subject. So it does actually help when you listen to the radio. You think, I just want to listen to music. That's great. And I've got, Spotify and all that. It's fantastic. It's like the best thing in the world. I love listening to music all the time. I much prefer to sit at home listening to music than watching TV. So the partner and I battle about that.
That's a conversation.
It's a different conversation. But I encourage people to listen to the radio, because it does connect you in with other people, and you do feel that sense of community. And, there is actually somebody that's just phoned in and they're going through something similar to me. It helps have a connection with other people. So it's not most people think it's the car, but most people it's at home, because it helps with that connection.
Which makes sense, actually. Now thinking about it, my nan, before she passed on, was like always listening to the radio at home, and she was home alone a big chunk of the day. So she was quite happy. You make a good point. She felt like she had someone else in the room with her at the time. She felt quite comfortable. That's a good point, mate. Thank you. There you go. You flipped that coin. It's all right. What else you got for me? Listen, just closing off, I'm very thankful, by the way, for what you've, in terms of the insights you've
not at all.
I have got one final question for you.
Sure. Crystal Palace will win the league someday.
Really? Join Watson. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. As an avid Tottenham supporter, I'm behind Big Ange, but I do like a little bit of Watson. If you were to give any advice to anybody who's looking to break into that leadership position, obviously, granted, your journey is unique, and obviously you've had those times you've been like, right, this is what I want to do. You've had that element of conviction in your decision making. Is there any advice that you want to share with our community, with our listeners, pretty much as to how you could break into that leadership arena?
I think, and I don't consider myself top of the leadership tree, but I think for me, it's just, if I could give anybody some advice, even if it was to my younger self, just surround yourself by the right people and good people. Don't be persuaded by others to make a career decision, because they've told you it's a good idea. Make your own choices on things.
Yeah.
And if someone's toxic, get out quickly.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Having come from another country across to Australia, I think one of the things which has really supported my journey is just not just having that professional team of peers, but more so my friendship group has kind of remained the same since I've got here. And again, just surrounding yourself by good, positive people in your personal life will have that knock-on effect, I think, to your professional career. And don't be afraid to ask for help and to reach out and say, I don't know this, because no one's an expert at anything, really. Everyone's constantly learning. You talk to scientists that have got PhDs, and all they do all day is learn more and more and more. So you can never finish learning. You never arrive. So some people sometimes say. So just keep learning and keep asking for advice, and don't be afraid to put your hand up.
Yeah. Perfect, mate.
Probably a bit cliche, isn't it?
I know, but it's staying room, right? It is absolutely true. I like the analogy about the PhD in the science, because it's absolutely all they do is research and learn constantly. Right?
Yeah. So I don't think anyone's a complete industry expert, because there's always something else to learn, something new that comes along, someone that's done it better elsewhere, and you could be learning from and collaborating with.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, mate. Really appreciate it. No, it's wonderful. Me sharing your insights.
It's honest to be invited.
No, it's wonderful, mate. And everything you share, especially around combat mental health and your personal journey, we're very, very thankful. We can't wait to see what happens next, mate.
Lovely. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we operate today, the peoples of the Kouwiloyan Nation. We also pay our respects to their elders, past and present. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land.